know the vibes. We got Nisi on the track.
So here we have it, a 2005 Kawasaki ZX636, another one. Yeah, this is another one that's come for repairs. Obviously, you guys already seen me work on it, get it back in running order, but it's not quite complete yet. I want to compare the 636 versus the R6 because in 2005, these were just like the two known best street bikes.
I removed my helmet so I can speak clearly. The Kawasaki 636 is a very good bike. It's got a lot of street fame because of the 36 extra cc's that gave it a little bit of mid-range, and people really dealt with this bike in a way that they felt that this was, you know, the best everyday all-arounder. Now, what we have in comparison that's different to the R6, the 05 R6, speaking just year to year, is a difference in how the triple trees mounted above the clip-ons. The R6 5SL R6 05 had clip-ons that mounted above the triple trees. Now, standard, that would give you the idea that this would be a more aggressive seating position, but it's not. This is very comfortable. It's almost like a F4i. This is a longer feeling, stretched out bike. You're not like more compact and hunched over compared to how the R6 is, but you're more kind of ergonomically stretched out. You almost, if you are resting on your wrist, you almost have to look up with your helmet. You have to look your head up because you're stretched out further. And that's just the feeling that I get from it. The mirrors being mounted so far forward and down, it's kind of something that you get used to, but if this is your first and only bike that you've ridden, that shouldn't be a problem. With the Yamahas, they're mounted a little higher so that they're up higher and out more, so you get a more comfortable way to look over and just see mirror the viewpoint instead of looking down and out. Things that I really don't like how they put it together is I looked it up because I thought it was a problem with the original 636 I had. The 636s run really hot. Single radiator fans is a huge downfall that I feel this bike has. Didn't do an awesome job with that because the Yamahas have dual fans. You see the exhaust leaks, they spit this nasty disgust back on the fairings. And since both of the bikes are white, you get to see it more on these. With how simple, and this wire harness and everything is very simple, everything runs right into a few connectors for the front, and then it runs to the back, and your only wire harness that has fuses on it are right there in the tail of the bike. But your ECU sits right in this area. What else is right in this area? Yep, your exhaust. Now, I've seen quite a few Kawasaki's on fire right here off of the tail. The ECU is sitting right there. That's kind of insane that you're in that hot of an area. This is a really hot area under here. And you see, this is the area for the ECU, and it's right next to the exhaust. That just doesn't make any sense to me for that to be a good design. Another thing that doesn't make sense for it to be a good design is where the rectifier is. What else is next to it? The exhaust. You got it. So critical electronic components, critical power units are sitting in the highest heated areas. It's just baffling that they would do that. When Aaron had his issue with the bike, he said he thought the P meant park. He turned the bike to park. which essentially turns on your parking lights, but it leaves power onto the bike. That's where problem number one always starts. This guy here, he says when he started to turn the handlebar to the lock position and lock it, I don't know if it's something sensitive in the wire harness from the starters, but that's when this bike started to die. And I was thinking, oh God, here we go. Another stator and another rectifier. But it just ended up, we changed the battery and everything worked fine. But it was just mind-boggling that the bike would not run without the jumper on. You know, that's what starts a lot of problems. And for people that don't know anything about bikes, when the bike died, oh, I don't know, I didn't do anything. It just did it. And it's always hard to really get information out of people when stuff goes wrong. It's always, oh, well, it was running fine, and then it just went out. So you kind of get that, and then you're stuck in the middle of, well, let me try to figure it out. But maybe that's just a Kawasaki shortcoming for this generation bike. The forks are great, the brakes are great, everything seems to be really good. Just those few small things that I just don't enjoy about this model motorcycle because they provide a problem. And if you're working on it, then, you know, you have that issue. You have that problem that you have to deal with. Let's ride this back home and let's go get that R6. Now, almost immediately, you recognize the dominance and the capabilities of this chassis. Now, I did say that I felt like this sat more aggressive than the 636, but after just riding it immediately back to back, I realized that this doesn't. This almost feels like a stunt bike because of how high the clip-ons are. Yes, seat height to floor, you gotta have some long legs for this bike. Kawasaki's way more comfortable, it sits lower. From seat to clip-ons, it's a shorter position. I'm like 6 foot, right? So it feels like I'm hunched over, but with the height of these clip-ons, I realized what Yamaha did. They allowed this short, compact area to feel more comfortable because the clip-ons are up high. Now, even though these are aftermarket, the factory clip-ons mount the exact same way, the exact same height, nothing has changed. This bike is exactly as it should be with all factory equipment on. Just the bars are out wider for more, I guess, leverage because I don't use steering dampers. In the year 2005, this was running up amok. It was running it up. It was putting in work on the track, doing everything that it needed to be. Doing everything that it needed to do to be in a position to show its dominance. Now, one thing that has always annoyed me are these brakes. I don't like Yamaha's brakes like this. The colors are weird and wonky. They're always off. When you got them with the blue was like a super sky blue instead of, you know, matching the color blue. I like the brakes of the Kawasaki better. But the Masters, the Brembo Master Cylinder on this, is exceptionally good, and the performance of the brakes, you just kind of ignore how they look. Shocks, forks, really good. Everything works really well. Now, as I was stating with the ECUs and being in the danger zone on the Cowies, the ECU and the rectifier on the Yamaha are fair and clear. The ECU for the Yamaha is right here. It's in the position right there. And your rectifier is right here. It's been said a couple times that it doesn't get enough air, so sometimes they fail with getting warm. But you got to think, what about the Cowies that's sitting next to an exhaust and they fail? So that's what I'm talking about, putting electronics in a place where they get hot and fail. And also, these have dipsticks. So these R6s have dipsticks. It's no viewing window, no sighting glass. You can just pull it out and check your oil, and it is built at a side angle like that, which is easy to access. You can just twist it off, even with my gloves on. Bam, I'm just, right there at it. So I really like this thoughtfulness, this thoughtful process. And remember what I was talking about with the engine temperature. So I've been sitting here for the less time than I was with the Kawasaki before. And let's see what the engine temp is on this, 178. So it's a few degrees cooler because it does run a few degrees cooler. The fans that you see, one is on this side and the other side. It has dual radiator fans. This bike will cool itself down. Those fans come on and you can hear them cut on like a turbine, blow the hot air right out of those side vents onto your knees. That's uncomfortable, but it cools the bike down. I really do appreciate the designing and the style of the front fairing. It's really nice. I like it wider. The Kawasaki's seem more narrow. This wide front fairing seems to get some air right around you so you can kind of tuck in and you don't have to have your elbows so tucked on this bike. You do have to have them tucked, but just not as much as like your standard, the Cowies, the CBR 600RR with a really tiny front fairing. So this bike is really enjoyable. I've spent many years on this bike. I've had quite a few. This is why these bikes stay in my arsenal. Another thing, the Kawasaki, the oil filter, which you can see right here under the counter sprocket, super easy to change, right? Super easy to reach, just like the dipstick. The Kawasaki's is between the exhaust manifold on the front. This, nope, right here. Unscrew it, dribbles down, and you're done. I like where they placed everything on this R6. I like how they thought about everything. It's really good. Everything is clever. Like I said, dual radiator fans is an amazing thing because you can actually use the hell out of this bike. You could beat the trash out of it, and until the engine fails, it's just up to the user, right? Some people that don't understand bikes, they use them differently. Now, my boy that blew a hole in my bike, he understood bikes, but he was just a Gixxer guy, and Gixxers are rugged. You could throw them off of the roof. You can throw them in a lake. You could pull them out and then drag them through dirt and then put a good battery in it and they fire up. And Yamahas aren't quite like that. They're actually very delicate. They're super delicate. The subframes break a lot when the guys stun them. You can't really 12 them and expect them to be in good condition. The fairing stays crack a lot because those tabs, if you can see, the metal on those tabs is really thin. So when you come down hard and you get shocked, those break. But until they break, they're super sturdy and they never move. Super cool bike. It's really great to compare the two back to back. For 2005, this is just the crown jewel. For a 600, you're hard pressed to come by something that's this agile, this powerful, this eager to do things. If you keep the oil changed, you're good. So let's get to the house. So with my extremely biased comparison, just having them side by side, you can see, like, doesn't that rear tire look way skinnier than this rear wheel, this rear tire? I don't know, maybe it's just the tread pattern or something. I don't know, not sure. All I know is, for sure, when the bike came in, Blood had chicken strips up to here, but you know what I'm saying? I'm not really even gonna ride this bike and get it any lower than that, but that's funny. So you can see the clip-ons being that much higher, about an inch or so compared to those clip-ons. And that seat height, that seat is more flat. This is higher raked, and it's probably up only about an inch, maybe at the best, but you can really feel that. Now, one thing I didn't even think about, I do like these brakes, but the way that Kawasaki gives them to you, with having one brake line that comes down from the master, and then you have another that loops up and over to the secondary, no. That's not the way, young grasshopper. You want one to each one, and look how Yamaha gives you. Now, it has a splitter, a junction right there, but at no point in time is fluid traveling up and then back down. It goes to a junction there and straight down to each one. But again, I do like the calipers better than I like these. But functions, they work really good. These have a super solid bite. These bite a little bit more aggressive, but I think that's what makes me like them, because if they bite more aggressive, I could use less pull strength. That's just how my brain works. In the other departments, the looks, man, that's a really good looking bike, but I'm still leaning towards this. This just looks more like a GP bike. This looks to me like a street bike. It's very street bike-ish. And again, like I was saying, the more narrow front fairing compared to this that puts air out and around your arms. And bikes really aren't that aerodynamic. They're actually a complete failure as far as aerodynamic goes, because you have a rider on them. The rider creates a ton of drag. So, I mean, obviously the double bubbles, they provide a little bit more of a different airflow. But, you know, 9 times out of 10, you still have to tuck in and duck in really tight on the bike to get a high top end. Just comparing dashes, and the sun is right about there. But look, you can't even see on the dash. It's backlit orange, but you can't see it. Now, what would you rather look at? Even though you can't see the red backlighting on this, it's still super easy to see. A nice orange dial, that's sweet. I'm able to see everything. If you're really gonna cop bikes, cop one of these two. But I'm unbiasedly gonna tell you, jump on one of these. Psych, all bias, bitch. Get these. These are the shit. You heard? So anyway, man, that's gonna be about it for the comparison of the 05 R6, 05 ZX636. And man, I finally got to get some bike content. I literally tried to film this video 4 times yesterday, but it started to go into a rant towards something else. So anyway, man, I gotta edit this shit so I can get this content up for the week. I thank y'all for joining me, man. I'm giving y'all 2 up, 2 down, and I'm gonna catch y'all on the next experience. And I hope you learned a little bit of something about these 2 shit boxes.